Joining us now, Stephen Yates, whom you can follow at YatesComs on Twitter, Senior Fellow, American First Policy Institute, and Chair of the China Policy Initiative, having previously advised other administrations. He joins us from his undisclosed bunker. Stephen, first off, it's good to see you. Glad that you're joining us today. Thank you, as always, for your time. I know that you're finding out about all of this as we are, because they kept pretty tight-lipped about it before announcing. But this seems pretty significant. What does this say? What does this say to you? First off, I guess the United States' response to this, because it's always been a hot topic of conversation. Chinese espionage. I think the question wasn't that whether or not it was occurring. It was, I guess, by how much. But I wanted to get your kind of top-line thoughts on your response to all of this and what you think this means in terms of United States handling.
Well, it was a very, very odd buildup. It made it sound like we're having something really close to a major election in the United States. We're going to talk about a major national security issue. It was a very odd lead up, odd timing. And in the end, it's almost like opening a refrigerator-sized Christmas box only to find a microwave inside. I mean, there's something that was important in there. I mean, it's important that they follow up on these cases, but the findings don't come anywhere near where the buildup was. So they had some Chinese intelligence officers or Chinese nationals that were interfering with law enforcement in the United States. Well, there's something I've known for 30 years. And then there's also some Chinese nationals, maybe intelligence agents that are out there harassing people to try to make them go back to China. That's also something that's gone on for decades. What was not mentioned to my knowledge is why the DOJ and this administration decided that the China initiative that they inherited needed to be shut down. And that came in the grand awakening of wokeness infiltrating our policymaking, where going after agents of the Communist Party of China was at least temporarily racist, and maybe today it has been declared national security and no longer racist. But color me officially confused by what they're doing and why this is what they're announcing now. If they're doing these kinds of cases to shut down this kind of interference, good. But it's hard to point to any one of these as kind of a threshold that points to sort of the pillars of freedom and justice in our country. And that's kind of what an attorney general should be addressing. But, you know, I'm one of those knuckle dragging, ignorant people that maybe don't know enough about this.
Yeah. Well, and you make a good point talking with our friend Stephen Yates, who's an expert in this area, foreign policy, dealing with China. The Chinese tech giant Huawei. I mean, everybody's kind of known about some of this espionage. I mean, this goes back to like 2019 when they were indicted. But you're right. Why was it? But I don't know what I was anticipating. I thought maybe it was going to be hyper political. But you're right. This is a lot of stuff that we've known. Are they just, is this like a showcase of them trying to appear very, very tough in response to this? Are they trying to send a message to China or what?
Yeah, my strong suspicion is that they were reaching into the bag of tricks to change a narrative in the middle of a political season. Now, I would like to believe that they're focused on protecting the national security, and I support prosecuting the bad actors that they may be going through on these cases. But this was kind of a stretch to change a narrative, as far as I can see. And as we've talked about on a lot of different issues, this administration's top priority seems to be communication strategy. It's not actually delivering results for real America and real Americans. I'm sure that'll come as a shock to your audience, but I think that this is today a microcosm of that phenomenon. I mean, there are any number of things. How about walking back that supposed political-based crimes in the United States was the number one threat? Right. to our national security and humanity, that the color of people's skin was the number one threat, or that climate change was the number one threat. So we've gone through this merry-go-round of ideas from them, and this is what they decided to play when the music stopped today. And while I think it makes some sense, it's just bizarre on lead up and timing.
And isn't this also odd that, I mean, with this sort of buildup, you would think that they would be making a grander case as to all of the different instances of espionage perpetuated by China. Like they had the Harvard professor. He was found guilty of something like 6 counts of lying about his connections to China, etc. He was again found convicted, and then they had the guy who's stealing corporate secrets from American companies. I think this is the Monsanto guy. He's supposed to be in prison for 15 years. There are so many of these instances, and it's weird that they just didn't come out and say, okay, well, we had this one, and actually present this to the American public as part of a larger offense that China has been engaging in for years.
I agree. That would make sense. But I think, the one thing that is missing from a lot of our elites is answering a simple question I think most Americans can answer in an instant. Is the Communist Party of China a potential collaborator and partner, or is it an enemy that seeks a form of governance that's hostile to our way of life?
Right.
And I think most Americans instinctively know what that means, whether it comes to their jobs, when it comes to the fidelity of their faith and their freedom of expression and association, all those things, they get it. The Chinese are in with the woke mob and trying to undermine the pillars of what it means to be American. If you begin from that point, it's easy to justify more being done along these lines by the Justice Department, the FBI, and others. But they've spent the last 2 years twirling around on the head of a pin focused on Americans as the biggest threat to America.
Yeah, that's such a great point. Talking with Stephen Yates, whom you can follow at YatesComms. To this point, and the moderation, we talked about this last week with their election, moderation is pretty much dead. The very interesting video came out where Xi Jinping apparently had his predecessor dragged out of the CCP conference during an actual live broadcast. And it was a weird video because it shows this guy, they go up to him, and the next thing everybody knows is he's being very, you could tell it could get forceful if he doesn't follow, and he's escorted right out. So moderation is apparently totally dead now in China, completely.
Yeah, well, there's the famous voice of pro wrestling and other kind of announcements where you can sort of hear in the corner saying, in the red corner, we have Xi Jinping, the undisputed leader of the unfree world. And that basically was the visual image that you have of Xi Jinping sitting there
next to him, right next to the guy.
Not really giving a squat at what was going on. And now, in fairness, Hu Jintao's an older guy. I don't know what's going on with the guy. He could have had all kinds of old guy problems. I don't know. But he got picked up and he got let out. He was like reaching for a piece of paper.
Oh, yeah.
And the people around him kept pulling it away like, no, you can't have that right now. And so regardless of what the truth is of what happened with him, indisputably, this was a power move because Xi's people did nothing to dispute all the questions that erupted after people saw it. They just, there's a health issue. What health issue?
Yeah, he looked pretty healthy.
Just left the power move out there.
There was at one point where he leans over in the video and he's trying to, I guess, engage Xi Jinping, who's sitting there looking all Winnie the Pooh-ish with a smile, sitting there just, and all of the other people by him, they all just sat there like, okay, let's get him out so we can continue. It was bizarre to see no reaction. There was not even any rubbernecking. That's the other thing. That is so weird. It was weird to watch.
Get 3,000 commies in a room. They're full of charisma and they know how to stand like a statue when bad stuff is going on. Because if you react, you could be next.
Golly. And that just bizarre. I'd love to find out why they thought that he had to, that he had to get going. Well, we're going to watch and see what else happens with this DOJ announcement maybe, but they're too busy, as you said, looking at regular, average, everyday Americans. Stephen Yates at YatesComms. You can always find him there. He has great insight. Thank you so much. We appreciate your time on this.
Thank you, Dana. Take care.
Of course. You too.